Please like and subscribe. Chapter 396 Heading to Mo Residence. Elder, there's no need to trouble yourself. Zhang hastily jumped up and kept waving his hands. If you really want to help me, please find Mo Bai. He's seriously injured and will definitely seek healing. Use this as a clue, it shouldn't be hard to find him. Don't worry, your business is my business, I will not shirk my duty. Fu Qinghong nodded. I will mobilize all the available strength to search for him. Fu Qinghan also nodded repeatedly. 4 women in their 50s all looked over with smiles, their eyes full of tenderness. Quote. Zhang Zan felt a chill down his spine and quickly turned to leave. Good, send me a message as soon as you find him. In a blink of an eye, he had disappeared from the spot, even faster than when he was chasing Mo Bai just now. Indeed, when a person is not pushed to the brink, their junqi does not run as fast as when they are under pressure. Leaving the small valley, Zhang Zan activated his eye of insight and began to search along the direction Mo Bai had disappeared in. He couldn't just rely on others, otherwise, who knows when he would be able to rescue Lu Mingyu. Being so severely injured, he shouldn't dare to harm Lu Mingyu for the time being. Zhang Zan speculated in his mind. Lu Mingyu was Mo Bai's ace in the hole to keep him in check, essentially a hostage. Once he made a move, Zhang Zan would have no more concerns and would kill him without hesitation. Therefore, as long as the perpetrator wasn't foolish, he wouldn't act rashly in a short period. In other words, she should be safe for now. However, if the stalemate dragged on, it was hard to say. The current plan must be to find the other party as soon as possible and rescue the person before anything else. Once I find you, I will take you as a direct disciple. Zhang Zan shook his head slightly, a trace of apology in his eyes. This Lu Mingyu, due to previous events, was not considered his student but merely an auditor. After this incident, she should be formally taken under his wing. Using the Eye of Insight, he could still see some clues outside the city, but once he entered Zui City, the trail was lost, and no further traces could be found. Hesitating for a moment, Zhang Zan stopped searching and stood pondering. Even though Mo Bai was gravely injured, he was still a Galaxy 5 Dan Peak fighter. Plus, with the formidable offensive power of the Mo Dao, Zhang Zan's current cultivation wouldn't allow him to capture him alive. A sneak attack would have a chance of success, but capturing him was basically impossible. Unless he could achieve another breakthrough. If he could quickly advance the Yuking destiny to the 3rd level, he might have the chance to break through to Galaxy 3 Dan, or even higher. Only then would he genuinely possess the strength to move freely in Zui City and not be so passive. The Yuking destiny was far from the 2nd realm peak. First, he needed to find enough heavenly mandate vitality to make progress. To break through to the 3rd level, he had to reach the 2nd realm peak first. Without that, any further thoughts were in vain. But, where could he find so much heavenly mandate vitality? The Fu family had already been nearly stripped bare. Aside from the Heaven Mandate Hall, Wanxiang sect, and the royalty, even the Zhou Yi dynasty wouldn't have many such families. Right, the Mo Blade sect should have some. His gaze flashed, and Zhang Zan realized. Mo Bai, the Vice Hall Master of the Heaven Mandate Hall with high authority, and the Mo Blade sect several hundred disciples, along with countless opponents killed by Mo Hong over the years, there must be a substantial amount of heavenly mandate vitality. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for him to create the Heavenly Destiny Luo book. That item required not only fragments of the heavens but also a vast amount of yuan power. Mo Bai doesn't even trust Mo Hong. He wouldn't possibly leave a large amount of heavenly mandate vitality in the Mo Blade sect, so, unless something unexpected happens, he should have kept it at his home. Mo Bai had storage treasures, but the space inside was generally very small, enough to hold some personal clothing and life-saving pills and items. If he had thousands of destiny plates, he certainly wouldn't carry them with him. After all, those items were only used when practicing the heavenly fragments or forging a heavenly destiny magical treasure, and his Mo Dao destiny had already reached the 3rd realm peak. Unable to break through, there was no need to waste precious storage space. I haven't been there yet, regardless of the outcome, I'll take a look. With no other destination in mind, he might as well check it out and see if the leader of the Mo Blade sect had quietly returned. Fixing on a direction, he reached a place where Min Zhongtao soon came out to meet him. Lord Zhang. Right, take me to Mo Bai's home. Zhang Zan gestured with a wave of his hand. Okay. Min Zhongtao nodded, and the two of them walked one after another, discussing the goal and strategy. Not long after, a vast residence appeared within sight. Zhang Zan hesitated for a moment, then his disguise ability activated. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into Mo Bei's likeness, looking sallow and weak, with even a gruesome wound forged on his chest. Support me. Approaching Min Zhongtao, he extended his hand. Zhongtao understood immediately and hurried to support him, his face filled with astonishment. If he hadn't witnessed the transformation himself, he would have thought the teacher had truly arrived. Because not only was the appearance the same, but the spirit's aura, and even the sword intent radiating from within, were all identical, not the slightest bit off. No wonder Chen Yuan and the others were so thoroughly deceived, anyone would probably be fooled. Once everything was prepared and the upcoming actions were arranged, Zhang Zan stumbled toward the Mo residence with the support of Min Zhongtao. Who goes there? Ah, it's the old master and young master Min. What has happened to the old master? As the two approached the gate, the guards immediately recognized them and rushed to greet them, their voices calling out. Shut up. Min Zhongtao's face darkened. Quick, call the housekeeper over. Yes. The guard didn't dare to say more and hurried inside. Before long, a man in his 50s rushed over. It was indeed the housekeeper of the Mo residence, Mo Yi. What happened to the old master? Seeing Zhang Zan in a weak state, covered in blood, Mo Yi asked urgently with a face full of concern. The teacher has just been ambushed and is badly hurt. Where's the teacher's treasure vault? Hurry and take him there are treasures that can heal quickly and stabilize the injury. Min Zhongtao spoke. This was the plan set by Zhang Zan to shock the other party first, then use the urgency of time as a reason to prevent them from overthinking. They had to force the other party to lead the way. Once they found the treasure vault, even if they were discovered, it wouldn't matter anymore. The treasure vault. Mo Yi was taken aback. Although I'm the housekeeper, I don't know about it. Then, take us to the place where the teacher often practices alone. You can't say you don't know this place as well, can you? Min Zhongtao's expression darkened. I know that place, it's in an annex near the old master's residence. We are all forbidden from entering. Mo Yi hurriedly nodded. Min Zhongtao made a broad gesture. Lead the way and hurry up, otherwise, if anything happens to the teacher, I'll flay you alive. Yes. Mo Yi gave the old master a careful look and, seeing his scattered gaze and weakened speech, did not dare to hesitate and quickly rushed forward. Chapter 307 Shouting for help. After winding through 2 long corridors, a secluded courtyard came into view. This is the place where the old master practices. Mo Yi stopped, unlocked the door, and bowed with fist in hand. Just as Min Zhongtao was about to support Zhang Zan into the courtyard, Mo Yi hurriedly blocked their way. Young Master Min, this place, no one but the old master is allowed to enter. Min Zhongtao frowned, about to say something, when he heard the weak voice of the teacher he was supporting. Go about your business, I'm fine. Yes. Min Zhongtao released his hand, and the teacher gave Mo Yi a glance before staggering into the courtyard and then closing the gate behind him. Mo Yi breathed a sigh of relief and once again bowed with fist in hand. Young Master Min, I'm truly sorry, I'm just following orders. No harm done. His job was simply to deliver young Master Zhang, and whether he went in or not did not matter. Knowing that staying here was pointless, Min Zhongtao bid farewell with clasped hands. The teacher may need some time to recover from his injuries, so I will take my leave now. Young Master Min, there's no need to rush off. Since you're here, I have something to ask you. Please, come to the side hall for a conversation. Mo Yi gestured with clasped hands. Hesitating for a moment, Min Zhongtao nodded in agreement. All right. One after the other, they quickly made their way to the side hall. Min Zhongtao looked over and asked, what is it that the housekeeper wishes to discuss with me? Mo Yi, I'm curious, where did our old master get injured? And how did he come to be injured? Min Zhongtao, the teacher was ambushed. As for who hurt him, I'm not entirely sure. It must have been some hostile enemies. As you know, over the years, the teacher has offended many due to his high position. I see. Nodding, Mo Yi suddenly gave a faint smile. I had no idea you could lie so easily, young Master Min, without even blinking an eye. Before he had finished speaking, more than a dozen guards brandishing weapons burst out of the room, completely surrounding him. Each one of these guards possessed the strength of Galaxy 2 Dan. Together, their combined forces would be difficult for Min Zhongtao to overcome, despite his respectable cultivation. His expression darkening, Min Zhongtao's eyes narrowed. What do you mean by this? Mo Yi stood up. What do I mean? The old master you brought, unless I'm mistaken, is an impostor, right? The old master raised you from childhood, treating you as if you were his own, and yet you betrayed him, conspiring with outsiders to harm him. You. Min Zhongtao's pupils contracted. Surprised that I know. Let me tell you the truth. The old master returned half an hour ago and told me everything. He even guessed that this situation might arise and instructed me to be prepared in advance. I just didn't expect you to actually dare to come. With a cold snort, Mo Yi continued, impersonating the old master to seize his cultivation technique and wealth. Min Zhongtao, you have some nerve. Seize him and kill him. Yes. Upon the command, the many guards advanced simultaneously, the surrounding formation weaving around them, enveloping Min Zhongtao in a powerful aura. Min Zhongtao's eyes narrowed further. With the present circumstances, escape was clearly impossible. The only question was the situation with Zhang Zan. Since they anticipated that the two of them would come, was the place Zhang Zan went also an ambush? He had thought that reaching the Mo residence would allow for great looting, only to find himself stepping into the jaws of a tiger. Ellipsis. The courtyard was not large, encompassing just over 200 square meters. It was unusually quiet, devoid of anything special or amiss. Zhang Zan, disguised as Elder Bai Yi, looked around before striding towards the room straight ahead. If the destiny plate were indeed hidden somewhere, it had to be here. Pushing the door open, he entered a spacious training room, with neither dining tables nor resting beds, only the flat ground and weapon racks filled with Mo blades. Zhang Zan slowly walked in, intending to use the Eye of Insight to search for the destiny plate, when he suddenly sensed dozens of intense fluctuations of origin chi. A great formation abruptly sprang into action. He hastily looked around. The door he'd just entered through had closed without notice, and the surrounding formation had sealed off all potential escape routes. Zhang Zan, you actually dared to come. You really have some nerve. At that moment, a sinister voice echoed, and from another room emerged a figure who was injured, none other than Elder Bai Yi himself. The Mo Blade sect leader, his bleeding now stopped but severely wounded, had a pallid complexion and a somewhat disordered aura. Nevertheless, his eyes still gleamed with madness and obsession. As a tyrant who had grasped the fragments of the heavens on his own, to be ensnared, his stronghold overrun, his disciples betrayed, and himself gravely injured, one could only imagine the depth of his hatred. Up to this point in his practice, he had never suffered such a loss. However, before he could fully unleash his hatred, he heard the other's voice. It would have been better if he hadn't listened. Upon hearing it, he nearly exploded with rage on the spot. Zhang Zan, it is you indeed. I didn't expect you to come early. You sure fled fast. Quote. Elder Bai Yi paused. Even now, you still pretend to be me. You think I can't kill you just because I'm injured. Let me tell you the truth, even with one arm gone, I still possess the cultivation of a Galaxy 5 Dan peak. My mastery of the Mo blade is still at the pinnacle of the 3rd level, and to kill someone of your Galaxy 2 Dan would be as easy as blowing away dust. Indeed, even at this moment, you're still masquerading as me. Zhang Zan, have you no shame? Kneel down and admit your mistake right now, and I might spare your life. Otherwise, today will be your day of death. The Elder Bai Yi, across from him, was equally fierce. You. Elder Bai Yi trembled with rage. He had seemed shameless, but never someone this shameless. Coming to the Mo Blade sect pretending to be me, imparting the Mo Blade martial skill, I let it slide when I couldn't catch you, but now you dare to keep up the act in my own house, right in front of me, caught red-handed, and yet you stubbornly claim you're the real deal. Do you think everyone is a fool? Since you're seeking death, I'll fulfill your wish right now. With a flick of his wrist, a Mo blade appeared in his palm. Elder Bai Yi held the blade aloft with his single arm, his presence majestic. Despite losing an arm, his immense strength hadn't diminished much, coming at Zhang Zan oppressively, taking his breath away. Facing his actions, Zhang Zan, far from being scared, shouted loudly, "Come, seize this impostor for me." Elder Bai Yi clenched his teeth. No need to yell. This formation not only traps the opponent but also suppresses sound. Let me tell you, even if you scream till your throat breaks, it's useless. Before he could finish, himself, across from him stomped fiercely on the ground. Buzz tilde tilde. The formation hummed and immediately stopped operating. The great array that he had painstakingly activated was utterly paralyzed by the other's single stomp. His pupils constricted, but before he could question, the other suddenly screamed at the top of his lungs, "Help, save me, save me." Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Elder Bai stood dumbfounded. Crying for help in my own house, something felt off. Chapter 308 Hard to distinguish between true and false. Inside the side hall of the Mo residence. Seeing the crowd surrounding him, Min Zhongtao was not flustered. Instead, he extended his hand forward. Hold on. Did you just say, the teacher came back half a short hour ago? Indeed. The housekeeper from the Mo clan nodded. Urgency flashed in Min Zhongtao's eyes. This is bad, you've been deceived. That person isn't our teacher at all, but an impersonation by Zhang Zan. Impersonation. A trace of confusion appeared in the housekeeper's eyes. Indeed. Min Zhongtao nodded repeatedly, that Zhang Zan teamed up with members of the Fu family, Fu Qinghong, Fu Qinghan, and others, to ambush the teacher in the suburbs. The teacher managed to sever an arm with his saber art. At that time, the teacher was also badly hurt, which allowed him to escape. If I'm not wrong, that Zhang Zan's right arm must have been chopped off, right? Yes. Startled, the housekeeper couldn't help but nod. Min Zhongtao slapped his thigh in revelation. Exactly. His arm was severed by the teacher using the Mo blade technique. Think back carefully. At the wound, was there not residual saber chi left by the Mo Dao? The housekeeper fell silent. As the Mo residence's housekeeper, having followed the old master for so many years, he certainly knew what his saber chi was like. It seemed that the old master he had seen just now indeed had a wound caused by the Mo Dao. And the teacher thought he was seriously injured and would definitely find a place to hide, not daring to show his face. Yet he had the audacity to rush to the Mo residence and pretend to be the teacher. Housekeeper, you've been with him for so many years, and you can't even distinguish the real from the fake. How foolish. Hurry and join me to catch him, to redeem your fault, or else, if the teacher gets angry, I'm afraid you won't survive. Min Zhongtao said urgently. Hearing this, the housekeeper wavered. However, recalling what the old master had said earlier, he had his doubts again. You say, the one you brought is real, is there evidence? Am I not evidence? As a student of the teacher, surely you don't think that even I cannot recognize my own teacher? Said Min Zhongtao, so agitated that he turned pale. He flipped his wrist, and a Mo Dao appeared in his hand, cleaving through the air. Whoosh! The powerful saber chi charged straight forward, leaving a deep crater in the ground in the blink of an eye. Can this saber art prove that I'm real? Min Zhongtao challenged. Yes, said the housekeeper, nodding hastily. Being the Mo residence's housekeeper, he naturally recognized the Mo blade technique. Young Master Min before him was skilled in the art, his strength formidable. He didn't need to look twice to know this one was the real deal. And if he was real, then the person he brought with him would naturally be real too. Disaster. If he truly let a fake in and made things hard for the real one, death would not be far away. Immediately breaking into a cold sweat, he paid no heed to further words and hurriedly turned to give orders, quick, to the small courtyard. Seeing his earnest demeanor, the group of subordinates realized the urgency and followed him quickly, allowing Min Zhongtao to breathe a sigh of relief. Whether Elder Bai would return to the Mo residence was unknown to anyone, but on the way, Zhang Zan had already anticipated all possibilities and made this contingency plan, never expecting it would actually come in handy. The group rushed toward the small courtyard only to hear Elder Bai's angry shouts before they arrived. Help, help me. Disaster, the teacher's in danger, hurry and save him. With a change in expression, Min Zhongtao charged ahead, followed by the housekeeper who quickened his pace. After a dozen or so breaths, they stopped outside the small courtyard. Faced with the yard before them, the housekeeper seemed hesitant. Knowing that the other party was limited by orders and dared not enter at will, Min Zhongtao gestured broadly, stop overthinking it. That Zhang Zan is vicious and brutal, he probably already set an ambush. Go rescue people quickly, otherwise, our teacher is really in danger. After speaking, he didn't care whether the others agreed or not, and kicked the small door open, charging straight in. Hurry up and follow. Seeing him charge in, Mo Yi, paying no heed to further talk, also led his men and charged over, only to find two old masters confronting each other face to face in the training room. Mo Yi, you've arrived just in time. Now, take down this impostor who's been impersonating me. Elder Bai Yi, who was missing an arm, couldn't help but rebuke them harshly when he saw that his subordinates had actually come following the summons. Mo Yi, this guy is impersonating me, committing a heinous crime. Arrest him quickly for a thorough interrogation. The old master opposite him also shouted out. Quote. Mo Yi's face suddenly took on the likeness of someone suffering from constipation. Listening to them, both men had identical voices, and crucially both held Mo blades, with astonishing sword intent, just as hard to distinguish. What's the matter? You've followed me for a full 30 years, and today you can't even recognize me. The armless elder Bai Yi said through gritted teeth, that year, when you were out on the streets trying to steal steamed buns and nearly got beaten to death, I happened by and saved you, and gave you the status of a housekeeper. Have you forgotten all that? I wouldn't dare. Mo Yi quickly nodded, looking back at the opposite, elder Bai Yi, with narrowed eyes. Men, seize this impostor for me. The event of him stealing buns 30 years ago was only known by the old master, nobody else was aware of it. If the other person could speak of it outright, they must be the real one. Hold on. The old master, on the other side, turning green in the face with anger, exclaimed, Mo Yi, how dare you? 20 years ago, you fancied the Wu clan's second daughter and stealthily drugged her, hoping to rape her. But the dose wasn't enough, and at the critical moment, she woke up and exposed your identity. In a crisis, fearing she would scream, you strangled her to death. It would have been the end for you had I not cleaned up your mess. Surely you haven't forgotten about that. Mo Yi's body trembled. This secret matter was also resolved with the help of the old master. So it stood to reason, could this person be the real one? And the one missing an arm was the fake. As he was racked with indecision, unable to ascertain the truth, he saw Min Zhongtao abruptly lift the Mo blade in his hand, pointing it at the armless, old master. Zhang Zan, even now, you still try to impersonate an identity, causing confusion. Do you really think we can't tell who is who? Everyone, attack together and kill him, or if he escapes, no one will be able to save you. After speaking, paying no heed to further talk, his saber came slashing down. His saber art was unparalleled, and as he moved, a straight line was drawn through the air, aiming straight for the spot where Elder Bai Yi's arm had been severed. Elder Bai Yi, who hoped his subordinates would turn the tide in his favor and kill the two impostors, could never have dreamed that he wouldn't even be able to prove his own identity. Furious to the point of nearly exploding, he no longer bothered to argue, and with a fierce thrust of his Mo blade, immediately met the attack head-on. Clang! Their blades collided, and Min Zhongtao felt a numbness in his palm. The Mo blade in his hand was immediately knocked flying. Mo Yi, can't you even recognize? Just as Elder Bai Yi was about to rebuke Mo Yi for not recognizing his own unique skill, he heard the himself across from him shout loudly, Zhang Zan, you're actually using spearmanship to imitate the Mo blade technique, confusing everyone. Shameless. Quote. Elder Bai Yi froze. Is this actually spearmanship? Chapter 309 Pointing out shortcomings. But before he could explain, Mo Yi didn't give him the time to explain. As if suddenly realizing something, he waved his hand dismissively. Whoosh! The more than 10 experts he had recruited at a great cost no longer had any reservations and struck out at the same time. Although these people only possessed cultivation around Galaxy 2 Dan, when they attacked all at once, their auras came together and the power immediately doubled. Even Mo Bai at Galaxy 5 Dan Peak couldn't withstand it and kept retreating step by step. Damn it! Mo Bai's face turned green with rage. He had thought that by escaping home, the opponent would definitely not dare to come over, and even if they did, it would be like a sheep entering the tiger's den. He had never dreamt that he would become the sheep, and the thugs he had spent countless resources to support had all turned into executioners wanting to kill him. What sins had he committed? Knowing that at this moment, convincing Mo Yi that he was real was more important than using all his strength to kill, Mo Bai suppressed his anger and spoke again. Mo Yi, 27 years ago, I put you in charge of affairs within the residence. You were seduced by a woman and accepted bribes, which led to some of my training materials being adulterated. Fortunately, I was shrewd enough to avoid an accident, but I was still furious and wanted to drive you out. It was only after you knelt in front of my doorstep for 3 days that I calmed down. Have you forgotten this incident? I haven't forgotten. Mo Yi's face turned pale. He remembered this incident very clearly, as it was the closest he had come to death. Thankfully he had reacted quickly, otherwise, there would be no place for him in the Mo residence. Mo Yi. While considering whether the person being attacked was really Mo Bai, he heard the old master on the other side speak similarly. 17 years ago, you fell for a servant's daughter and promised her father a high profit to sell her to you. When he disagreed, you found an opportunity to send him away and colluded with bandits to slay him. Then, under the girl's pleading, you took the chance to annihilate the bandits, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You did this very covertly. Surely you didn't think I didn't know. Mo Yi's body stiffened. He had never told the old master about this matter and thought that only he himself knew. He never imagined that he still hadn't been able to hide it from the other party. Looking at it like this one should be real. Just as his mind was inclining in one direction, the old master, with the severed arm called out again. 24 years ago, I was going to Ziqing Mountain to seek opportunities and left you in charge of the house. In order to pay off gambling debts, you sold my green lion sculpture and then bought a fake to put in its place. I never discovered it until 3 years later when I accidentally broke it and realized something was wrong. You pinned the blame on a new subordinate and struck him dead in front of me. This matter was very secretive, and indeed I was fooled at the beginning, but the only defect was that when you bought the fake, you actually bought it on credit, and the seller came looking. The old master hadn't finished speaking when the man across from him shouted, Zhang Zan, all these things Mo Hong knows, he had already quietly discussed with you in detail. Did you really think that by memorizing them, you could deceive Mo Yi? I will now mention something that even he himself has forgotten. 20 years ago, you sent him and Ling Baiyang to deliver a letter, but they ended up offending a very powerful force. In order to clear your name, you shifted all the blame onto Ling Baiyang, resulting in him getting castrated. When he was sent back, he was barely alive. Old master, I know you're the real one now, please don't say any more. Mo Yi hastily interrupted. You're not trying to determine who's real, you're pushing me towards death. Lifting his head to look at his many subordinates battling, indeed he saw each of them looking over with strange expressions on their faces. To have such an asshole as a subordinate and yet not kill him, this Mo Bai really was quite magnanimous. Kill this impostor pretending to be the old master. Seeing everyone's expressions, Mo Yi's face flushed red as he gestured grandly towards the armless Mo Bai. Yes, the crowd did not dare to object and attacked once again. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, countless saber chi and sword chi swarmed in. Min Zhongtao also joined the fray at this time, and the seriously injured, old master, occasionally slashed out with a saber. Though he rarely made a move, each one was tremendously powerful, each attack finding the gaps in the battle and inflicting further injury on the opponent. It must be the old master, otherwise he couldn't possibly have such discernment ability. Mo Yi was even more certain in his heart. Damn, Zhang Zan, your student has been hidden by me in a place that only I can find. If I die, she will certainly die. Having been struck repeatedly and knowing that if it continued he would definitely be killed, the armless Mo Bai shouted out desperately, simultaneously crushing another Heavenly Destiny Luo book. Whoosh! A burst of saber chi was unleashed, blocking everyone's attack, and Mo Bai suddenly stepped hard, fleeing rapidly into the distance. Don't let him get away. Zhang Zan shouted out, about to give chase, but then hesitated. With his current situation being seriously injured, if he chased too quickly, even the dumbest would see through the ruse. If that happened, the real Mo Bai and the subordinates might turn on him together, and not only would he fail to save Lu Mingyu, but he wouldn't even know how he died. Yes. Mo Yi nodded and quickly gave commands, and the crowd pursued swiftly. Soon they all disappeared from sight. Old master, are you all right? After the crowd left, Mo Yi looked over cautiously. The real and fake, old masters, had basically exposed everything about him. He truly feared the one before him would remember the discontent and slash him with a single stroke. Go down first. Since those things have already passed, I naturally won't pursue the matter anymore. Perceiving his thoughts, Zhongzhan waved his hand. Thank you, old master. Only then did Mo Yi let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly exited the room. Watching him leave, Zhongzhan carefully examined the room before him. When he had first come in, he had run into Mo Bai and had not had the chance to look carefully. Now was a good time to look for sufficient training resources and the destiny plate. After making a round of the room without finding anything like a hidden door, he walked toward the side hall that Mo Bai had emerged from, which was a small bedroom, probably a place to rest temporarily when tired from practice. The Eye of Insight activated, and after a careful look, the walls all around also revealed no hidden compartments. Shaking his head just as he was about to leave, his heart suddenly stirred, and his eyes fell on the small bed before him. Since the Fu family had something like the 10,000 fox well, this Mo Bai, whose cultivation was not weaker than the Fu family patriarch, and whose status was even more prominent, had many enemies. It would be unbelievable if he hadn't kept some tricks up his sleeve. Heavenly Mandate Vitality. With that thought, tips of his fingers released streams of Mo Blade Destiny Essence power around the bed, flowing non-stop. Buzz. As expected, as this power operated, slight glimmers of light immediately flashed around the bed. He quickly approached and lifted the mattress, and indeed under it, he found a small pit. Chapter 310 The Strange Old Man. The pit was shallow, only a little more than a meter deep, empty as if it was just a very ordinary hidden storage space. However, having had the experience of entering the 10,000 fox well before, Zhongzhan placed his palm beside the bed, and his Mo Blade Destiny Essence power flowed out immediately without reservation. As more and more power surged, the ordinary pit suddenly shook and released dazzling light. With a leap, Zhongzhan jumped in. Like the previous 10,000 fox well, what appeared before him was not a shallow pit anymore but a spacious room. The room's layout was very similar to the previous cultivation room, empty except for a weapon rack with a Mo blade placed on it. Is this also Heaven Mandate Domain? Zhongzhan was shocked. He had suspected that Mo Bei's residence might conceal a space or hidden compartment created by a formation, but he never expected it to be a Heaven Mandate Domain. Although it seemed much weaker than the one at the Fu family and the space was somewhat unstable, it was still a divine domain. This was something that could only be formed by the collapse of fragments of the heavens. No, that's not right. Zhongzhan quickly realized, Mo Bai isn't the founder of Mo Blade Destiny, is he? Mo Blade Destiny, with Mo Bai currently being the highest and having only practiced up to the 3rd level, it was unlikely that even in death, with that kind of strength, he could form a Heaven Mandate Domain. A divine domain, one would need to reach at least the 4th level or even higher to achieve that. If the founder couldn't achieve it and was still alive, why would a divine domain form here? Even though it wasn't large, it defied common sense. Unless, Mo Bai was not the founder of Mo Blade but was also a successor. With a sudden thud in his heart, filled with doubts, Zhongzhan approached the weapon rack and casually picked up the Mo Blade. Clash! As soon as the Mo Blade landed in his palm, the room twisted, and a grayish stone figure emerged, wielding a Mo Blade without a word, and slashed towards him. Zhongzhan was startled and quickly dodged. The stone man's strength was comparable to his, both at the Galaxy 2 Dan peak, using the same Mo Blade technique, but the moves were different from those he had seen before, seemingly more profound than those practiced by Mo Bai. Strange. While puzzled in his mind, Zhongzhan didn't stop his hand movements and lifted the Mo Blade to meet the attack. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The blade wind howled as he fought with the stone man. The stone man's moves were obviously finer than Mo Bei's, both grand and intricate. They carried the elements of soul disturbance and fate destruction. Initially, Zhongzhan found it a bit awkward, but as the battle went on, he gradually entered a transcendent state. It was the same Mo Blade Destiny, yet the saber art demonstrated by the stone man had more human touch. Indeed, human touch. The saber art of Mo Bai, which he had seen being used by Min Zhongtao, Mo Hong, and others, and had personally clashed with, was extremely ruthless, never leaving a back door, as if it would not stop until it killed its opponent. Yet, the moves shown by the stone man were ruthless but contained softness, seemingly predictable but actually hiding mystery, leaving a life gate. This life gate was a mercy for both the enemy and oneself. Because if the moves were predictable, failing to kill the opponent in a fight was also a big taboo. The obvious flaw in Mo Bei's saber art was also the fundamental reason he had never broken through to the 4th level. Apparently, Mo Blade can be executed like this. The more Zhang Zan engaged in combat, the deeper his understanding of Mo Blade became. He didn't know how much time had passed when suddenly, his mind shuddered, and Mo Blade water flow seemed to undergo a transformation, becoming clearer and more substantial, oppressive on a spiritual level. 4th level. He had actually broken through his understanding of the Mo Blade while sparring with the stone man. With a loud crash, as his insight broke through, the stone man in front of him, as if having completed its task, began to show countless cracks on its surface and then transformed into streams of pure heavenly mandate vitality, rushing towards Mo Blade water flow. In the blink of an eye, it was completely absorbed, significantly thickening the flow, but there was still a considerable distance before a complete transformation into the 4th level of heavenly mandate. As the stone man collapsed, the Mo Blade in Zhang Zan's hand disappeared, and suddenly the room in front collapsed, revealing a dark cave in front of him. What? Zhang Zan looked perplexed. He could understand a cave transforming into a cultivation room, but a cultivation room morphing into a cave seemed like a regression, no matter how one viewed it. Proceeding slowly through the cave, he soon arrived in an extremely spacious cavern, dark and cold like a cellar never touched by sunlight. Flicking his fingers, a spark ignited, and he could immediately see inside the cave. The cave wasn't large, about 30 meters across, and at the deepest part of the cave wall, chains locked an elderly man covered in disarray. He appeared to be over 80, his skin sunken, and bones thin as kindling. Huge iron hooks pierced through his clavicles, nailing him firmly in place, his hair obscuring his eyes, hanging motionless like a crucified Christ. Zhang Zan approached with quick steps and gently touched him, only to find that he was still breathing. He drew the cold nether sword and slashed at the iron hooks and chains. Ding ding ding. After several crisp sounds, the chains broke, and the elder fell. Zhang Zan caught him reflexively and then realized that the man's stature was extremely tall, comparable to Elder Bai Yi, but significantly emaciated, weighing no more than 60 kilograms together. Are you alive? Zhang Zan looked at him questioningly. In the Heaven Mandate domain, he had only entered the 10,000 fox well, where he saw only foxes. A living person, this was his first encounter, especially one imprisoned in such a dire state. The other man remained motionless as if he hadn't heard him. Zhang Zan frowned slightly, then pointed his finger, channeling a stream of heaven's path zhenqi along the man's meridians. Even after absorbing the zhenqi, the elder showed no reaction, as if this powerful healing strength was ineffective. Something's not right, a thought occurred. And Zhang Zan operated the Mo Blade Destiny Essence power. Streams of heavenly mandate vitality emerging and flowing into the man. Soon, the frail elder began to fill out like a balloon being inflated, his skin and overall condition visibly improving. Heavenly mandate vitality was needed to restore his strength. Who exactly is this man? And how did he end up here? After infusing thousands of streams and seeing that the man had recovered considerably, Zhang Zan looked at him again. Just as he was about to lift the man's hair to see his face clearly, he suddenly felt a shock in his heart and hurriedly stepped back. The next moment, a sharp glint of the saber slashed straight towards him, landing where he had just been standing, immediately leaving a